Good day, everyone. My name is Emmanuel and I have the very rare privilege of hosting the delectable architect Apeh at the Be My Host series. Good day, architect.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good to have you, sir.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. How are you doing?
Very well, very
Lovely.
well. Thank you.
Lovely.
Yes, so I believe that for a generation like mine, that is quite fast-paced and having several things going on for us, there are many questions that have not properly been answered. And so many young people don't feel like they have the ears to listen and the people who are willing also to answer, which I believe is the gap that exists in mentorship and several other things like that. As such, I decided to piece a few questions here to see that you help answer several of the questions. So the first question I have is, what value or values tops the list for you when contemplating granting access to young and intending leaders?
Okay, yeah, so that's a very good question, and I'm glad that you're asking about access. So what I would say first is that I think that many young people, I don't want to categorize into Gen Zs or millennials, it doesn't matter, but many young people don't even understand the power of access. They desire access, they want access, but they don't understand the true value of access. There are many things in life that doesn't measure up to access. The fact that you have access to certain people is far more than money. And if you understand the power of access and the things that access can give birth to, then even the attitude with which we receive access, we handle access, we explore access. So I'm really delighted that it's beginning with a question of access. I take access very seriously.
Okay.
Access to people that I love and respect, and of course, access to me from people that I care about. The truth is, I've had access abused greatly. So the two things that I look out for when I grant access to people, two things primarily I will say for now, would be character and focus.
Okay.
And these two things, as vague as they may seem, is becoming quite extinct amongst young people. You see that there's such a void of character, and I can't dig into the details of that, but I was sharing with the team some days ago, and I called something the Gen Z character pandemic. There is a general Gen Z character pandemic. People don't know how to talk to people. People don't know how to call people. For example, you're trying to call me to say, I want to greet you, sir. And you call me 4 times. You don't give me 4 missed calls to greet me. I'm not owing you money. So if you want to greet me, you call me once. If I don't pick, you leave me a message.
Yes.
And then when you call me 4 times and I put in the effort to respond to you, and you said you were just calling to greet me, you make me regret giving you access in the first place. And you may mean well, but you are engaging it the very wrong way. Like I said, if you give me 4 missed calls to greet me, you could have just left me a message to say, just checking up on you, I trust you're doing well. And I would truly appreciate that. But when you give me 2, 3 missed calls, I'm trying to imagine in my head that this guy really needs to talk to me. Whatever he's calling me for is really important. And some people also will send me a message and say things like, can I talk to you? If you just take that same time and tell me what you want to talk to me about. In the message, you give me the highlight, and then you say, please, at your convenience, I would like to call you. But when you send me a chat and say, please, can I talk to you? When can I talk to you? I have something to say to you. And you expect me to respond to you and then maybe call you back. It makes no sense.
So I would like to chip in because sometimes it might not necessarily be a gap in character or character deficiency per se. I mean, it might be that these people actually probably have the character, but their means of approaching it probably was what puts you off. So how would you rather they approached the entire thing?
Yeah, so I think you're correct. I think that it could be a character deficiency in some cases. In other cases, it could be the lack of training or information. I think that a lot of people do mean well. Like I said earlier, they mean well, just that they don't know better. I have people very close to me, and I see the way they talk to me, and no matter how much I am close to someone, I have A lot of people that I look up to, some of them are pastors, some of them are just business people. I love them, I look up to them, and I can't get too familiar with them to call them by name or just talk to them randomly. I have colleagues and friends that I talk to and I say, yes, sir, okay, sir. It doesn't take one hair from my body. You know, so some people, if they know better, they will do better. And they are doing as much as they know. So it may not be a character deficiency, like you rightly said. It could just be the lack of information. And forgive me, also a lack of common sense. I'm working on a book right now, should be out in a few months' time, and it's a book on common sense. And the reason why I had to do a book on common sense is because I've come to learn that the most important things in life are usually basic. The complications of life usually don't form into the cadre of things that are very fundamental for our growth. The real fundamental issues, always, if you dig deep enough, they are usually very basic. Right? So some of these things that we see, the gaps that we see, I think it's also a lack of common sense. Because it's just common sense that I don't even call you. You are younger than I am, but I won't even leave 4 missed calls with you, except it's really important. So if you give me your number, I won't bug you with phone calls back to back just to say hello, or if I have a problem, I could leave you a message. It's just common sense that Mr. Emmanuel could be busy, so I will leave him a message, and in due time, he will call me or he will suggest a call. So character is a big deal. Number 2 is focus. Many young people today think they are focused. And in a few days' time, we'll do a lecture on focus, because I came to learn a few months ago, sometime last year, that even distraction is a type of focus.
Wow.
Focus is when there is a center of attention. In summary, when you are focused on a thing, it means there's a center of attention. So right now, I'm focused on you. You see that now? We're having a conversation. I'm focused on, watch my words carefully. I'm focused on you because you are my center of attention or attraction, whatever you want to call it. If in this conversation, you keep talking to me, and every single time you're talking to me, I keep looking this way to any of the people behind the cameras. At this point, I have a center of attention. But my center of attention isn't you. But looking this way in a conversation, I am distracted. However, in my distraction, there is still a center of attention. So in the actual sense, when a person is distracted, they still have a center of attention. Just that the center of the attention is on something that is not necessary. So the needs per season is what defines focus. Not the stay of attention. Because you can stay your attention on something that is far from a need. And many young people today have stayed their attention far from something that is needed. So they are having some form of focus, but it takes the shape of a distraction. So when I say focus, I'm not talking about people that are fixed on something, because you could be fixed on something and be way from destiny. But I'm talking about those who have found the core of the needs for their lives and they are focused on it. Those people have my attention any day.
So how do you assess this, Rob?
I am not the one who has that obligation to engineer that reality. But I can tell when a person is staying their attention on something that isn't moving their lives forward. It takes proximity. Sadly, at the time that I discovered this, you would have had my number already. You see, but when I figured that this young man is highly distracted, I do one of two things. I either try to realign you to true focus, or I create a safe distance. But most times you can't tell how focused a person is in the true sense of focus until there's some form of proximity. You know, and it's in that proximity that you now tell if this guy is actually driving in the right direction. And that also goes for access with friends, with mentors, with proteges. So it's not just a thing for me, it's a thing for you. If you have friends, you need to analyze their character and their sense of focus.
Yeah.
Right? Because eventually it's going to impact on you.
Yeah.
Eventually. Even if it doesn't derail you, it will waste your time.
True.
See, now, you may have strong character not to be derailed. However, committing yourself to people who are void of true focus, eventually they will waste your time.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
sir, for
sure,
bringing clarity to that question.
Yeah.
For want of time, I would like to ask the second question I have here. What's one mistake young architect Apeh made that seemed good at the instance that you will avoid today?
One comes to mind, which is, I wish I had a mentor earlier. So when I became born again, was when I basically took my life seriously. For those who don't know what it means to be born again, when I gave my life to Christ, was when I began to take my life really seriously. I was very popular in school back in the day. I was, very productive. I was an A student and all that.
Was this post-university or post-secondary?
Yeah, so I was 16 at the time.
Okay.
It was in secondary school.
Okay.
Federal Government College, Ugwalawo, precisely. So before then, I was doing well in school. I was really popular in school. I had really popular friends, but I wasn't taking my life seriously. From the moment that I took my life seriously was the moment I gave my life to Christ. And for the first few years of that experience, I didn't really have a mentor. And I was on a very fast pace because I was very zealous. I was very aggressive in my service of Jesus, and I was everywhere preaching and doing all sort of stuff. I was seeing healings and miracles at that young age.
Wow.
So I didn't really see the need for a mentor. I wasn't told that I needed a mentor, until sometime like 2 years later, right? And when I found a mentor, I still wasn't devoted to mentorship. So the mentor played the role of a cover, but not guidance.
Wow.
You see? But as I grew older, I saw that there was a need for mentorship that wasn't just cover driven, but real mentorship, and I didn't have that early. I wished I did. Sincerely, I think that it is something I could take back. It hit me very strongly about maybe 15, 18 years ago. And when it occurred to me that I wish I had a mentor earlier was when we gave birth to the Purple Foundation. And the goal of the foundation at the time was to give to young people what I didn't have when I was younger. So the real objective of Purple Foundation was to provide a platform for genuine, authentic mentorship to many young people, as many as possible, as many as God will help us reach, that didn't even know they needed any form of mentorship. And that's what we've done for the past almost 20 years.
Around mentorship, several questions and arguments have been that having multiplicity of mentors, probably not necessarily around one field, or having more than one mentors at the time might be a wrong thing. And there's another approach to mentorship, because I want to get your take on this. There's another approach to mentorship that is usually time-based, meaning for a period of time, and then after that season, it's like, okay, I don't think I could commit to this mentorship again, or probably there's just a time limit to the whole thing. What's your take about it?
Yes, so I did some teaching about this. I think we had an Unravel event sometime last year.
Okay.
I did some fundamental, foundational teaching on mentorship. And so to answer your first question is, can you have more than one mentor? Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can. I'll give you a simple example. I'm an architect. I also am into hospitality. I'm also into ministry. So the person who mentors me in ministry may not be able to mentor me in architecture. The one who mentors me in architecture may not be able to mentor me in, let's say, in our hotels. So that is just one case scenario. The other case scenario is that you may have someone who is a major voice in your life when it comes to your marriage, and may not be a key player when it comes to your finances. So is it possible to have one mentor? Yes, it's possible to have more than one mentor. And in doing so, it's still important to have a primary mentor. So even though you have 2, 3 persons speaking to your life, you've got to have one who is the primary mentor, whom you give the track of your growth process. So even when you draw the growth from multiple mentors, there is one core mentor that keeps a track of the growth of, or the process rather, of your growth. And you may draw the growth from different mentors. You may draw your financial growth from one mentor, draw your marital growth from another mentor, draw your spiritual growth from another mentor. However, there is one primary mentor that keeps a track on the progress of all the growths put in one. But can you have more than one mentor? Yes. If you're talking about spiritual fathers, then again, you can have one primary spiritual father. However, you can have other fathers that speak into your life. You can't say, I just have one spiritual father. You have one primary spiritual father, and you have other spiritual fathers that still play a vital role in your life. Is that clear?
Yes.
So your second question is mentorship time bound? Yes, some mentorship is seasonal. So it's possible that I could be your mentor while you were at the university campus. And when you were done with school and you did your youth service and you went to a different state, I won't play that much role in your life anymore. The thing I will be careful about here is to say that when we speak about seasonal mentorship, there's also a deficit of character in this generation. And that deficit is the deficit of loyalty. So I want to be careful about portraying seasonal mentorship, because I also don't want to risk people corroding their loyalty to say that I have no business being mentored by you anymore because your time in my life has passed. And that is a major character deficit in our time. People just stay in your life long enough to draw enough from you to take the next step. And once they take the next step, they cut you loose like a bad habit. You know, and it is a deficit of character. So even if the season of your mentorship in my life has exceeded its time, I can still maintain the core values of loyalty in my relationship with you. I can remain loyal to you even if you're not actively mentoring me in this season. You are not less important to me because your season of mentorship has passed in my life. So that balance is critical.
So does this apply to spiritual mentorship? Like mentorship being time bound?
Yes, it is, because, oh wow, this is a very sensitive question, you know. So it's possible that the person that mentored me 10 years ago doesn't have the spiritual structure to cover me 10 years after. It's possible that the value of a spiritual mentor 10 years ago doesn't measure up to my growth pace 10 years after. In fact, it's possible that the ranking of someone who mentored me 10 years ago may become far less than my ranking 10 years after. See that now? And this also can be engineered by my exposure to drinking from different streams of mentorship. So let's say I am listening to this apostle, I also listen to this pastor, I also feed from this, you know, and they have formed my life in a way that is well advanced beyond the man that mentored me 15 years ago spiritually. So there are even certain cases where the man who mentored me spiritually 15 years ago can be found in major compromises that in some cases is irreparable. Do I stay subject to that cover in spite of the compromise? Or can I find safety somewhere else while I intercede for my previous cover? You see that now? So there are many reasons why spiritual cover may be seasonal. Right? And it takes a level of discernment, again, that is highly short in our time. There's a huge shortage of the spirit of discernment because we're not driven by a third-party relationship with God. We do what our pastor says, we go where our pastor says, we live how our pastor says, and many of us hear God for ourselves. So it's now becoming quite dangerous to make some kind of statements now, because sometimes the thing that drives us is not from the actual source. It's like a third-party handover. So somebody hears from God, then transfers to this person, and the person transfers to you, and then you run with it. However, it is very possible that even spiritual mentorship can be seasonal. The person who mentored me when I was 19, who was like my spiritual father and cover when I was about 19, 18 years old, isn't my spiritual cover now. Do I still love him? Yes. Am I still loyal to him? 100%. You know what I'm saying, right? Yes. But I have a spiritual father whom I've had for a long time, over 10 years, and he's an amazing father. Really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. So,
Sure.
spiritual mentorships could be seasonal. However, the loyalty in the relationship,
The loyalty, the respect must be kept intact.
kept.
Even if a person is found in a compromise or found in a flaw, it doesn't mean you disrespect the person. Nobody is void of flaws. We are just void of different categories. We just have different categories of flaws. Is anyone who is void of a flaw? I don't think so. But we have different shapes and different forms and different measures of flaws. Certain flaws may seem negligible.
Yeah.
You see, a guy that steals and a guy that lies is both wrong. But we overlook the lies and then we imprison the one who steals.
Yeah.
You see that now?
Yes.
They are all flaws, but just various measures of flaws, different categories of flaws. So if a spiritual father may be caught in a compromise, but you still owe it to him to pray for him, to love him, in some cases to still serve him.
Yeah.
And we see that in Bible days where certain spiritual fathers were caught in compromises and the spiritual sons still remained under them for a long time. You see that now?
Yes.
So even if a spiritual father is caught in a compromise, you still have to be very discerning before you cut him off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir,
Sure,
for bringing
sure.
clarity
Thank
to that. So now about investments, because one of the things I found out about you is there's a level of wisdom I've seen with you as touching investment, and you have one of the rarest, I should use that approach to investment, because I think you were asked a question at an event where I was,
Okay.
and it had to do with investment on, in crypto investment and all of that. And in fact, I got one of the rarest answers I had gotten, at the time. So I'd like to ask, what's the first thing you do before making investment decisions?
Many things, to be honest. First is discernment. First, because I've seen many good ideas I walked away from. Many, because I just didn't feel a connection to it. Because not every good idea is the right idea.
Yeah.
It may be good for you, but it could be bad for me.
Yeah.
It could be bad for me, but it could be good for you. Because ideas sometimes take the shape of your personality. Certain things that you can do right, I can't do right. And even if I learn the skill, it may become, again, a distraction. Even if I'm focused in it, I could still be distracted in it.
Yeah.
You see? So, first is discernment, and then if I want to go a bit technical, it's control and exposure. I always check the measure of exposure and control before I commit to any investment. So if I'm going to go into an investment, how much exposure do I need to deal with? And how much control do I have in view of the exposure that I have to deal with? So if the exposure is too much and the control is minimal, I walk away from it. If the exposure is healthy and the control is healthy, I go for it.
Wow.
If the exposure is minimal and the control is also minimal, I still go for it. So, and there are many other things that I do, but the older I get, the more simple I want my life to become. So I also look for simple ideas. I don't like difficult ideas that are too complicated. No, the word is not difficult, complicated. I don't like complicated ideas. When you have to, start giving me, too many lines and too many layers to an idea or to an investment, no, I'm not in for it. I like investments that have straight line. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, so the simpler the investment, the more I'm drawn to it. In some cases, the simpler they are, the more difficult they are. But I don't mind the difficulty. Everything worth having is worth fighting for. But I just prefer simple ideas. And when I find simple ideas, I check the exposure that I have to deal with, and I examine the control that I can have.
So by control, what would that necessarily mean by control?
Good question. So let's take an example. Let's say that I want to go into farming. So let's say farming is the focus. I want to farm. There are two ways to go about it. Number one is that I buy the land and I buy the seeds. I go to the farm and I farm, right?
Yes.
I harvest, I go to the market and I sell. Now, in that case, let's say I need, 20 million to make that happen. So there's different kinds of exposure. Now, I'm going to be exposed by 20 million. However, I have 98% control because I'm going to be on the farm.
Yeah.
I'm going to harvest myself. I'm going to go to the market and sell the harvest. There's a different scenario where you are the farmer. I want to farm, but I'm using you as a farmer. And I give you the same 20 million to farm for me.
Yeah.
And you go to the farm to farm for me. And then you harvest for me. And then you go to sell for me. In one scenario, is the same exposure because the same 20 million naira will be invested in the business.
Yeah.
So I have a 20 million naira exposure. But in both scenarios, in one, I have more control. In the other, you have all the control. I won't do it. So if I'm going to use you as a farmer, I will drop that investment from 20 million to 2 million. So in that way, I've reduced my exposure because my control is minimal. Is that making sense to you?
Yes.
Yes. So, and if you fail with the 2 million, I can walk away from that. It doesn't hurt me so badly. Are you seeing that now?
Yes.
So if you come to me and say, I beg, give me 20 million to farm for you, I say, no. If you want to farm for me, take 2 million instead. You farm for me, let's see how it goes. If you do well, next year again, I'll give you another 2 million. By the fourth year, then I'll probably make it 4 million. You see that now?
Yes.
Because I'm trying to control the exposure.
Yeah.
See?
Yes.
So the reason why I don't do crypto is because there is exposure and no control. I don't have a lot of control. So if I'm going to go into crypto or into any kind of online transaction, I will put very minimal amount to control my exposure and turn that money around for 2-3 years before I make it bigger.
Wow.
But for the hotel or the restaurant, I have a measure of control. You see that now?
Yes.
So, and number two, beyond the business of the hotel, there is the asset of the hotel. That also gives me control. So even if I can't control the business, I can control the assets.
Yeah.
You see that now?
Yes.
So the real money in the business of hotel goes into the asset of building the hotel.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the real investment. So, and the building is there. You see?
Yes.
The business can be a variable, but the building is a fixed asset.
Yes.
So that's why these days I'm very careful about what I do. I ensure that whatever I do now increases not just my business portfolio, but increases my asset portfolio.
Wow.
For now.
Thank you so much, sir, for bringing clarity.
So I think we have room for one more question.
Two more,
I think
just-
so. 2 more questions. Okay, so let's do it.
All right.
Let's
so,
do it.
My fourth question here says, how do you balance family life, faith, business, and every other engagement you have?
Simple. I've said this before over and over again. I believe that when you want to become productive, you can have multiple lives. And I hear people trying to be very dynamic and try to be very motivational, very inspiring, very scientific. And they give you lectures about their financial life, their family life, their spiritual life, their relationship life. I don't have that. I have one life. I have one life. And I always say, I call it the core of my life. So once you define the core of your life, then everything fits into the core. My core doesn't fit into everything. Everything must fit into the core. So whatever does not fit into my core, I don't go for it. If marriage doesn't fit into my core, I won't have been married.
Wow.
I promise you. And at some point, I was not so sure if it was fitting to my core, and I almost did not marry. So I'm only married because marriage is essential to my core. We are blessed with children because that is essential to my core.
To your core.
And every business that we do today is essential to the core. There are many other great ideas that I could have done that I'm not doing because they don't fit into my
your
core.
Yeah.
So, and what forms the fabric of your core is values that are orchestrated from your assignments. I'll say that one more time. What forms the fabric of your core are values that are fabricated from your assignments.
Wow.
So once you have those values not every value stems from assignments. So once you have formed that value structure that stems from your assignment, it forms your core. Then from that core, everything that you need to become, you need to have, fits into it. The problem with this generation is that we keep moving our core from left to right to center, making your core to fit into things when things should fit into your core. So for me, it's quite simple. It keeps me focused in the sense of what focus truly is. Because if it doesn't fit into my core, I don't struggle with it. No, it's easy to walk away from anything and anyone who does not fit into my core. So it makes my life very simple, again, very basic.
So you have one life and everything must be.
I have one life.
Wow.
So I mean, I admire those who have like 15 lives, so like the cats. So they have, marriage life, ministry life, this one life, money life.
Yes.
I don't have that. My money life can't contend against my family life. My family life can't contend against my work life. My work life can't contend against my spiritual life. And my spiritual life can't contend against my work life. So when you say you are praying for 4 hours, when your boss gave you assignments, and you come to work by 11 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, you are in sin now. You see that now?
Yes.
Because you don't know how to marry your lives together into one. You say, no, I'm focusing on my spiritual life, and my work life cannot come against my spiritual life. It's not meant to in the first place. If they offer it into your core, your spiritual life will be full, and your work life will be full. Your marital life will be full, and your financial life will be full. You cannot pursue money at the detriment of your family. You can't pursue work at the detriment of your spiritual life. And you shouldn't pursue spiritual life at the detriment of your family. Because
that's the balance.
If you fit all into your core, they will work together.
Yes.
So it's only those who have found their core that all things work together for their good. You see what I'm saying now?
Yes.
Because, you see, that scripture is so powerful. It didn't say that you will work all things together. It didn't even say that God will work all things together. That scripture suggests that all things in a consensus by themselves, in their own native character, we find a way to synergize just for your good. That happens to a man who has found his core. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
So to my last and final question, it says, what is your take on the future of business as against its dependency on artificial intelligence?
AI. So, you see, AI is something we need to talk about. We can't ignore AI. AI is here. But I'll say this, AI is more dangerous than we think it is. So when you get a chance to travel, you will see that in many stores now, there are fewer people serving the customers. So in many stores, mostly out of the country, there's self-checkout systems where you buy things that is excluding AI. So whatever you want to do for yourself in the next 10 years, you want to be sure that is either you are working with AI or you are working in spite of AI. Whatever value you want to create is going to be a value that you are either using AI to your advantage or AI cannot replace your advantage.
Yes. Wow.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
So, for example, we have a hotel. AI cannot own a hotel. AI can run the hotel.
Or can't own it.
You see, AI probably maybe for the next foreseeable future cannot build a hotel. Maybe they will soon start 3D printing a house. Maybe, who knows? Okay. Now they print components of houses in certain places.
Yes, they do.
But so you want to be careful that whatever you want to do, ask yourself, can AI replace it in the next 15 years?
So, sir, you mentioned AI taking jobs. Don't you think it would open opportunities as well to probably maybe a few other persons out there? Because I know it would affect the system of business. However, I think the interception of AI to every sector of economy might just make opportunities, maybe a little.
It won't make as much as it takes.
As it takes, okay.
It will take far more than it makes. It will make, for sure. If I design an AI tool to run a school, 4 of us could come up with the AI design, but it will take the job of, let's say, 50,000 people.
Wow. True.
So 4 of us with our staff, maybe under 50 of us, we will make millions of money of naira from our AI invention.
So like a monopoly.
50 of us. But what we have designed for, let's say, 2 universities or 5 universities may deprive that school of 2,000 lecturers.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
So I think AI will come with a lot of benefits. But I also think that AI will take more than it gives in terms of the jobs it will take from people. It will give a lot to people. Like I said, AI may increase the quality of life of people that can afford it. Because eventually, if many people are out of their jobs, it won't matter what AI is bringing to them.
True.
You see? And it's a thing that we are still learning, right? Also, AI is going to impact greatly on education. If you were to go for an interview or you are to do an online course, all you need to do is just to ask ChatGPT, is that what they call it?
Yes.
A question. It will give you all the answers. Even Meta on your phone will give you all the answers.
Yes.
So we will now have to redefine education. Because part of the core of education is to remember knowledge. But do I need to remember knowledge if I carry knowledge everywhere on my phone? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't have to remember the road to your house if I use the map on my phone that gives me the easiest route to your house every time I come to your house.
Yes.
That need to engage my mind to remember the road will no longer be relevant to me. So AI comes with its bliss, but I promise you there's a lot to battle. With AI, I promise you.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering all my questions here for being an awesome guest on this session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. See you on the next one. Thank you.